An upmarket mall in the suburbs of a major African capital, a popular hangout for locals and foreigners, was seized by a group of armed men. The criminals took hostage of citizens after shooting and throwing grenades. Even though, within an hour, security forces entered the crime scene, the siege finally ended after more than 3 days, leaving scores of civilians and soldiers dead. Soon after the attack started, Twitter and other social networks were flooded with posts. From civilians to government officials to police officers, everyone was posting about the attacks. But one post stood out. A Twitter post claimed Al-Shabaab, an Al-Qaeda associate from Somalia, to be responsible for the attack. Twitter responded by removing the account responsible for the post. However, their actions were ineffective as new accounts were constantly created. The Twitter posts were soon followed by a video uploaded to YouTube claiming the same. Terrorism is different from other crimes. It's not about a single person or a small group. It's about an ideology. Imprisoning just the handful directly involved in the attack will not help reduce the threat of terrorism. It is essential for investigators to track the entire terrorist network and pick up their leaders so as to be able to prevent future attacks. An attack of such magnitude and lethality could not be possible without extensive planning and local contacts. In a case scenario like this, a security analyst can best use Xalted's IntelliCenter social network analytics and its domain-agnostic capabilities in narrowing down the suspects. With data created from a plethora of sources, in this case, such as social network, cell phone, chat, emails, CCTV footage, travel transactions can be feeds into IntelliCenter for enrichment, linkages, and analysis by the investigator. Where do we start? To resolve a case like this using IntelliCenter, first step is to create a query in its knowledge discovery platform. The power of IntelliCenter Knowledge Discovery Platform is to be able to define any query, standard or customized, and search among vast sources of structured and unstructured data in motion or at rest, linkages and patterns resulting into information that helps an analyst with intelligent insights to make informed decisions. In the next steps, to find possible suspects involved and related to the attack, the system can be queried for social network data, its linkages and patterns. We would then find an approximate location of the Twitter postings via IP locations through suspicious accounts like HSM Press and HSM_PR, which are suspected to be controlled by Al-Shabaab group. The location information found later shall be used to analyze communication links and patterns for identifying suspects and/or targets. It is important to find other communications and narrow down real suspects and targets. Hence, interception of all cellular traffic around the mall in real time would not only allow the security analyst to listen into conversations, but also analyze the call data records to find more insights related to the attackers and their associated group members. Hence, the next step would be to query data from cell phone towers in and around the mall, prior, during, and after the attack to find out the following. The communication between suspects in and around the mall to locations identified via IP location tracking. Perpetrators have a tendency to constantly change their SIM cards but use the same mobile handset. Hence, one of the patterns in IntelliCenter to query for is a shared handset. It is quite likely that the terrorists have been living in Kenya long before the attack in order to facilitate planning of the attack. Terrorists use communication services, but at a minimal frequency. They mostly communicate with only a couple of numbers. Their communication locations are also limited to in and around their hideouts. We searched the database for call detail records that meet this or several other possible known patterns for terrorists. It is important to find suspects who have traveled to the Westgate Mall before the attack, which can be achieved by studying communication records and location analysis. The terrorist group Al-Shabaab originates in Somalia. There is strong possibility that the terrorists are communicating with local people back home. Analysts can query the CDR data to analyze which numbers have been making international calls to Somalia, other known hotspot locations, and those locations found from analyzing IP addresses from social networking data. By applying certain patterns and filters to this data, we can identify those numbers that are associated with the terrorists and further intercept their data. The terrorists are not only limited to cell phones as a means of communication, they also use emails or chat messengers to share information. They often share details of their new social media accounts, videos of the situation, and other content through these mediums. We can filter through all the emails and the chat data and search for important keywords. This will not only help us filter the list of suspects, but could also help investigators intercept the plans of the terrorists. Keyword search and analysis in specific location helps in further narrowing down the investigation. Westgate Mall's CCTV footage is another important data source to explore. Using IntelliCenter, the analyst can study the footage to search for gunshot events. The system will then attempt to trace the gunshot to the source. It will look for a clear image of the shooter's face. It can also search for the same person in other sources of footage feeds around the city. This will allow investigators to create a movement map of the suspect and also create a list of possible locations that can be used to further verify the telecom data. Besides, with social network data, call detail records, video feeds to validate source of target list already achieved, travel data such as flight, train, and bus data must also be included in the query. The terrorists are known to be from Somalia. We can access immigration databases to understand who has entered the country to enrich the search. We can correlate our target lists with known criminal databases to help further narrow down the number of suspects. So, what do we actually get from IntelliCenter Knowledge Discovery Platform? We are able to take data from varied data sources such as social network, call details, text, CCTV feeds, travel data, government databases, and using domain-specific patterns, knowledge is discovered, which is further linked to narrow down target list. The Knowledge Discovery Platform will build a target list of all the potential suspects either directly or indirectly involved in the attack. The resulted list is the outcome of filtered and correlated disparate data using all the rules, patterns, and results from the query. Following insights are provided to make informed decisions. 1. Suspect's calling and communications pattern. 2. Suspect's location and travel movements. 3. Correlation and linkages of suspects. 4. Profiling of suspects using different patterns. IntelliCenter aids the investigators in analyzing and stitching events across multiple domains to bring out the complete picture. Each step of analysis in IntelliCenter helps in reaching closer to the actual mastermind and presents vital inputs for decision-making. Investigators can then use this data to bring in targets for interrogation or capture more intelligence and evidence on the targets for effective resolution of the case.